The numbers for electric car sales for March are in, and Chevy Bolt and Nissan Leaf are leading the way. Actually, they shined. When was the last time I said that? So yes, the sales for those two have been great. I'm going to dissect those and all other electric car sales numbers for March, but I'm not going to do it myself. I'm going to do it with my good friend Tom Malogny, who's the contributing writer for Inside EVs, in our new segment. I guess it's not very new. We've been doing it for a while now. It's called Plugged In with Tom Malogny. All of that is coming up next.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric.
Welcome to E4 Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward, but most importantly, become a part of this community. All right, so the sales numbers are in, and these sales numbers are being reported every month by Inside EVs, and it's actually not an easy job because a lot of manufacturers like Tesla and others don't just report those numbers on a monthly basis. A lot of work goes into it, but they somehow managed to do it. And in the last couple of months, it's been disappointing and boring, I would say. But this month, it's actually very interesting with Nissan Leaf and Chevy Bolt actually kicking some butt. We know that Model S numbers have kind of falling off the edge of the earth, but that was kind of expected. So let's dissect those numbers. Before I bring Tom in, let me remind you that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out the M-Byte, the all-electric SUV coming to the US and Europe in 2020. That's next year, starting at just $45,000. I am a reservation holder myself. You should be as well. It's actually free to make your reservation, so browse to byton.com to make your reservation. It's also in the description of this video. All right, without further ado, let me bring in my good friend Tom, and we are going to talk about all the sales numbers for March. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, pretty good. So give us a quick rundown on what's happening with the sales numbers in March, and what what are the winners and what are the losers this time around?
Sure. So first, I'd just like to remind everyone that watches your channels, over at Inside EVs, we do a monthly sales scorecard for electric vehicles, and it's actually something that's one of the most popular features on our site. Most of the other electric car websites actually come and take our data and credit us, of course, most of the time, because we do an exhaustive research every month to try to get the numbers as close to what they are. And we've been doing it for years. And what we're going to talk about today is we're just going to do a recap of, now that we have all of March's reporting in, and talk about who are the winners and who are the losers.
All right, let's get to it. I'm showing the numbers. These are for the basically top 8 or so, whatever I was able to cut from the top of the long list. And these are both all electric and plug-in hybrids.
Sure, yeah. So you can see as we report them, when there's that battery next to it, fully charged, let's say, that's an all-electric vehicle. The vehicles that have no battery next to it are plug-in hybrids. The only one vehicle that's different is the BMW i3. That has like a half-charged battery, because BMW doesn't break out the sales of the fully electric i3 and the i3 with range extender. So there's no way for us to know exactly how many of each were sold. So that's the only vehicle on our monthly sales scorecard that has like a half battery. It's kind of half plug-in hybrid, half full BEV.
And we should mention that these are U.S. sales only. This is not worldwide. This is just U.S. sales.
Yes, that was what I was going to say next.
Okay.
We focus on U.S. sales.
Yeah.
So we'll jump into some of the cars that did particularly well in March. March in particular is a good month. January and February are always the slowest sales months for cars. And in January and February, we sold about a little over 16,000 electric vehicles in the U.S. And in March, we sold 27,000. So we as usual, there's always a big jump up from February to March. And as usual, we beat last year's sales. We've most of the time in the U.S., we do a little bit better the following year than we did for that same month the year before, and that trend continues. So let's start off with Tesla. there's been a lot of news about disappointing sales for Tesla, and that, of course, is reported on the worldwide sales that they didn't hit some of their estimates. Some of the Tesla shorters were celebrating, and that started a lot of different threads in the forums on the Tesla websites. But I'm going to take it in the other direction. I think Tesla did really well in March. They sold over 10,000 Model 3s here in the U.S., and the Model S and Model X units, they sold over 2,000 of each, which was more than what they had sold in January and February combined for those months. So while March is always a little bit better, it's not double the other month. So Tesla, I think, did really well. They sold almost 15,000 cars in the month of March in the U.S., and that's considering so many of their vehicles, or so many of the Model 3s now, are being shipped overseas for Europe and sales in China. So all things considered, I give Tesla a solid B plus for the month of March. I think they did well.
It's interesting that you're saying that, because a lot of people have been very disappointed. And granted, they have over 10,000 vehicles basically on the ships in transit, because they just started, exporting them to China and to Europe. But I haven't heard anybody yet say that was good. But I think it's pretty reasonable, right? Even Wall Street admitted that, a lot of analysts, that, hey, we kind of expected that. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of a drop off after the federal tax credit got halved. Let's face it. In December, they sold so many cars because everybody that even was considering buying a Tesla rushed out to order them so they could get the full tax credit. So now there's a little bit of a lull. That's going to happen, and it's reflected in their sales. So, even with the price adjustment that Tesla made, you still get that stigma. People feel like they're getting cheated because they're not getting the full tax credit, and that will hold back sales. So all things considered, almost 15,000 cars in March. I think that's pretty good for Tesla. So I put them in the win column.
I should also add, though, that I think Model S and Model X sales have gone down, and I made a whole different video about it, is because, there's some uncertainty. I mean, they're getting outdated. And, even though I'm still going to be sticking with my e-tron for now, as I'm still considering a backup plan of, getting a fourth Tesla, I can't bring myself to getting a brand new Model S and Model X, because I'm almost certain within the next year, everything in those cars will be updated, because they're so far behind on the Model 3. So I think that's affecting those sales as well.
It could be, but that said, our estimates show they had a really solid March. They sold, 2,100 Model X's and almost 2,300 Model S's, and that's a respectable number for those vehicles, especially now that the Model 3 came out. So, that's all things considered. We put Tesla in the win column, and I'm personally, I think they had a good month. So let's transition over to Chevy. Chevy also had a really good month with the Bolt EV and the Volt plug-in hybrid, or extended range electric vehicle, whatever you prefer to call it. The Volt, unfortunately, production has ended on the Volt now, and I guess everybody rushed out to get that full tax credit, because the tax credit on GM is now halved on April 1st.
It's a collectible now, Tom. I own a collectible. I'm so excited about this.
There you go. We'll hold on to it for a while. I'm not sure how much the value is going to go up. It's not like a Tucker or an old Porsche or something like that. Right. But it's still a great car.
It is.
I've always loved the Volt. I thought it was a great car. I'm sad to see it going. But if that meant that GM is going to focus on entirely electric vehicles, then that's a decent trade-off for me. We still don't really know. They've talked a lot about, yes, they're doing that pivot, but we don't really have anything much from them yet. But that being said, the Volt sold 1,230 units in March, which was double what they sold in January and February. So they or actually equal to combined what they sold in those months. And the same with the Bolt. The Bolt sold 2,166, which was about as much as they sold in January and February combined. So all things considered, they had a pretty good month of March. And what the real interesting thing is going to be to see, now that the tax credit has been halved for GM, how will the Bolt sales fare? We talked about this last week, and GM has been putting some cash on the hood. They realize that with the federal tax credit going away, they have to incentivize the Bolt a little bit better now because there's a lot of competition. Now that the Model 3 price is lowered on the base model, we've got cars like the Kona, the Nero's coming, the Soul EV. There's the Nissan Leaf E Plus, which we're going to talk about next. They're putting some cash on the hood. I'm hearing some crazy lease deals that have been coming out from around the country. So if you're somebody that really likes the Bolt and interested in getting one, check out what your local dealer has to offer, because I think GM is putting a lot of cash on the hood, and you can get a really good lease deal right now.
What kind of deals have you seen? I'm just kind of curious.
I've heard under 200 a month.
With like, what are the other terms? How much money down and all that stuff?
Very little cash down, under 200 a month, I've heard.
Wow,
So that's a fantastic deal. We've heard reports from all over the country, different deals. Now, obviously, that goes dealership to dealership. But if GM is putting a bunch of cash on the hood, the dealer should be able to give pretty good sales and lease rates.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah. So we'll pivot over to the Leaf. Now that the Leaf E Plus is available, I'm not sure how many of them are at dealers, because a couple of the dealers that I reached out to didn't have any of them yet. But I'm here in New Jersey. They may have been sending the earliest ones out to California. But for some reason, the Leaf sales jumped up to over 1,300, which is a high for the Leaf for a while now. And the only explanation I can have is maybe that the E Plus has made it to some of the dealers. I don't have any confirmed deliveries. Nobody's reached out to us at Inside EVs and said, "Oh, I've got an E Plus." But that's the only thing that I could come up with why they sold so much. The only other possible reason is Nissan wanted to make room for the E Plus, and so they are discounting the other Leafs that they had on their lot. But I don't have any proof of that. But for some reason, the Leaf shot up from around 700 a month up to over 1,300 a month last month.
Now, let me ask you about that, because I mean, yes, it's great that the sales are going up, but still, even at 1,300 or so, that's still pretty. That's not even good compared to the first generation. At the top of, I think the sales were between 2,000 and 3,000 a month. I still wasn't able to. I'm not able to figure out why they're not selling. I think it's a much better car than the first generation, and that was pretty successful. And on top of that, it is pretty much the cheapest electric car in America as far as buying brand new. So what gives?
Well, the E Plus isn't. The E Plus actually costs more than the Model 3. So
I was talking about base.
Excuse me?
I was talking about base price. Like, so if you're getting stripped, it's under 30,000. It's actually closer to 20,000 if you get all of the incentives.
Right. So yes, it's the base Leaf is actually a very good deal. It's a good car, the Leaf.
Yeah.
So you want to know why? It's basically competition. When the Leaf first came out, you can go back. We have all of our historical monthly plug-in sales records on Inside EVs. Go back to like 2013 or 2012. There's like 10 or 12 different electric cars listed on the list that are for sale. And most of them are compliance cars that were only available in California. Look at it now. There's like 50 or 55 cars that are available. So why is the Leaf not selling as much? It's the competition is intense. And honestly, while it still is a good car, until they had the E Plus out now, that gets 226 miles per charge, they had fallen way behind with range. So the sales are definitely, the car's a good car, but in today's market, the vehicle needs to have 200 miles of range, and they just didn't have it until right now. So let's see what happens moving forward. If sales pick up, if March is any indication, then things are going to look up for Nissan.
All right. So I mean, listen, it's good to hear that both Chevy Bolt and Nissan Leaf are doing at least better, because I gotta tell you, I started to really worry, not specifically about them, but about the the overall trend, because still, I mean, maybe Bolt aside, but like Nissan Leaf is just such an amazing good deal. Again, I mean, the even with a 151-mile range, after all the incentives, people can get it for like $20,000, which I thought was. I'm baffled by why they can't sell more of those. But okay, all right. I'll work that out in therapy later. So, what's next?
Well, before I jump into next, I want to
Okay.
just follow up on that.
Okay.
So when's the last time you saw a Nissan Leaf commercial?
Well, commercials been a while, and are you talking about even like billboards and online advertising? Because
Yeah,
including that, I haven't.
they're just not putting money behind it. So that makes a difference. People don't realize as much as, I mean, there's a reason why these companies spend millions on marketing and advertising. It works. So if they don't promote the vehicle, if they don't, have them at their dealerships and positioned in prominent locations, plugged in with the hood up so people can see it looks different, and market it properly, it's not going to take off. The one of the things that I've learned from the dealership training programs that I've done is the dealers that have understand they need to market these cars a little bit differently. They need to put some money behind the advertising. They need to have them displayed properly on their showroom, kind of away from the gas cars, with a charging station plugged in, showing that it's different, with collateral there that people can read. If they don't make an effort to sell them, they're not going to sell. And it doesn't seem to me that Nissan is doing a really great job at that. So that I'm sure that contributes to it. I don't think they've told the story well enough about how the car is a really good, capable car, even without the 200-mile range, the 150-mile range. That could suit the needs of many, many owners. And when you look at all the incentives and you pile on the federal tax credit and then state incentives, and some states have incentives for charging stations and old time of use plans for electricity. You put all that on top of a low regular base price, the car is very affordable. And I don't think they're telling the story as well as they should be. So
Okay.
let's move on. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, I am ready.
What pure electric car has been available since 2014 and had their second best month ever in March of 2019? Second best sales month ever in the U.S.
Since 2014,
Available
I
since
know it's not Model
2014.
S. I know that's not Model S. Wow. I don't know. You tell me.
For some bizarre reason, the Volkswagen e-Golf had their second best sales ever in March of 2019.
I knew there was a reason why you told me to get the Nissan e-Golf picture in here when I was preparing for the show. I was like, wait, what? Oh, okay, sure. But I didn't give it any thought. All right, well, all right. How and why did they do so well?
I wish I had an answer. They sold 581 e-Golfs in the U.S. after only selling a little over 100 each month for a while now. I mean, all last year, I think they only sold 1,300. So they sold half of entire 2018 year sales in March of 2019. So that's a bit of an anomaly. I don't know if they're just sending a bunch of them to their dealers and saying, move these and we'll give you an incentive. But there's something going on with the e-Golf. So if you're an e-Golf fan and you're thinking about getting one, go down to your dealership and ask them about what's going on there, what the incentives are. Because I have a feeling that Volkswagen might be doing a pretty good promotion with them, because it's the only reason I can realize or imagine why sales just went off the chart this month. It just jumped up from 100 to 150 a month to 581, almost 600. So
And it's
something
actually
going on
more
there.
than I'm trying to look at the slides. It's actually even more than let me look at the slide again. It's outsold BMW i3. I mean, that's surprising in its own.
It like doubled the i3 sales, which the i3 is one of my disappointments that we'll talk about next. And it's not a surprise. The i3's been only selling somewhere around 300 to 400 a month. They're down from back when the i3 first came out, they were selling around 800 a month, 900 a month, somewhere around there. They had plenty of months where they were well over 1,000. I think they even hit 2,000 a month a couple times. But BMW just seems to be content with a few hundred a month of them now. They pulled back a lot of their programs that were incentivizing them. And I think they're just kind of riding this model out and happy with just a couple hundred sales a month. So they're one of my disappointments. If we want to jump over to disappointments now, we talked about the cars that did well. It's the i3, it's the Jaguar I-Pace, and the Hyundai Kona. So the Hyundai Kona EV only sold 127. I know that's up. It's only their second month of sales. And it certainly isn't because of demand. It's a supply issue. There's not many of them out there, and the dealers that have them are marking them up. We have reports that some dealers in California are charging as much as 10,000 over MSRP for them. So, if you want a Kona, I would highly recommend you hold off a little bit, because that's not going to last, that premium. Don't pay 10,000 over MSRP. You can wait a couple of months. You can do something if you had to. And I'm sure that that's going to settle back down once Hyundai starts delivering a little more of them to the dealers. And you should be able to pick one up for at least MSRP. It's a great little EV. I love the Kona. I thought long and hard about getting one. But right now they're supply constrained. So the dealers are doing what dealers do, supply and demand. And if there's more demand than supply, they're going to tack that money on. One of the reasons why a lot of EV aficionados love Tesla, that they don't have this dealer network. They don't have dealers gouging when they can. But conversely, when there's a car that they want to get off the lot, you can get a fantastic deal on it, like what's going on now with the Bolt. Chevy's, definitely offering some fantastic deals, and you're paying way less than MSRP for it. So it cuts both ways. But I tend to agree. I prefer to have just a set price like what Tesla does. I wish all the dealers would transition to that, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
All right. What's any other disappointments? Because I
Yeah, the
think I
Jaguar
have one.
I-Pace.
Which
I
one?
don't. The I-Pace really has just never done well.
What is going
they,
on there, man? Like,
I,
look at these numbers.
you know,
I mean,
it's
they're going
I
down,
know.
and this is a great freaking car.
It really is. I love the I-Pace. I had an opportunity to drive one of the first deliveries in the U.S. and spend a whole day in it and put about, I don't know, I think it was 300 miles on it, maybe 300 to 400 miles on it, California, and used one of the high-speed chargers. And friend of mine, John Hyam, got one, and he was one of the first deliveries, as I mentioned. So he spent the whole day in it. And I tell you, it's a great EV. It's not terribly efficient, but it's really a great EV. It goes more than 200 miles per charge. And I think most people aren't really terribly concerned about the efficiency of the car. They're just looking to see how far it'll go. The further, the better, obviously. But it's super comfortable car. I love the interior. Drives great. And they should be selling more of these. I really don't know what the problem is. I'm a little disappointed and a little perplexed, because it's a really good electric car. And I'm not saying they should be selling 10,000 a month like Model 3s, but they should be selling more than 179 a month.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just looking at the numbers. Let me bring that. Let me bring this chart up again. They are, I think, the only electric car here that has not increased its sales in March, right? I mean, I'm just trying to look here, and every single one of them had increased except for the I-Pace. And let me just mention that even selling 210 in just January, I actually made fun of them on their Twitter account, because I thought selling 200 of them in January was kind of pathetic, because I agree, this is an amazing car. I've considered it myself. I have a couple of pet peeves with it that kind of push me towards e-tron, which I'm also now, not 100% sure, but a beautiful car. It's a Jaguar. I don't think consumers care about, how many miles it goes per how many kilowatt hour battery is, right? It does have, well, as we now know, more range than the e-tron, even comparable to pretty much everybody else, into low 200s. How in the world it's not selling? I mean, do you think people are not interested in the car? or do you think Jaguar is not doing a good job promoting it or selling it?
Well, I don't think Jaguar is doing a great job selling it, but that and promoting it, but that can't be the whole picture. The dealers have them; they have inventory of these cars. So I mean, not a huge inventory, but they are out there in dealers, and I'm really kind of struggling to understand why they're not selling more of them, because it's like I said, it's worthy of much greater sales than that. It's very it's I can't
I
figure
know
it out.
we're lost for words, is what it is. Maybe you guys, the viewers, will enlighten us in the comment section. All right, so
I'm sure they will.
yeah. Hey, listen, there's a possibility. So all right, so where are we heading with this? Like, obviously Model 3 is going to continue kicking butt. I don't know what's going to happen with Model S and Model X. Actually, I think it will continue to subside, because I just don't understand how anybody in their right sense will get one, when the refresh has to be coming, or you can get a Model 3 with like way better features, faster charging for like half the price. Where do you think Tesla is? What can we expect from Tesla in the next few months? But what do you think is going to be going on with the trends with the cars that we also talked about, the I-Pace, the i3, the Kona, the Leaf? Like, where do you think we're going with this?
Well, the three cars that I'm really interested in seeing how they perform is the Kona. Now, the Kona is only in the second month, and sure, they only sold the whatever 127 of them, but that was supply constrained. Once we start getting a little bit more supply, hopefully we'll get more. I'm really interested to see how many Hyundai ships to the U.S., because that car is going to sell. They're going to sell every one they bring in here, no doubt. It's priced right. It goes far. It's a great little car. And then the next two that I'm really curious about are they're not available yet, but they're going to be arriving, and they both may even arrive in this month, in April, if not definitely by May. The Audi e-tron and the Nero EV. Those two vehicles are been highly anticipated, and I'm expecting them to land here in the next 4 to 6 weeks, both of them. And again, what type of volume are we going to get? I know you like the Audi. You've driven it. You've been in it. You even had a deposit on it. I don't know if you still do, but the Audi e-tron looks to be a great vehicle. We got a little bit of disappointing news on the EPA rating. Again, kind of like the Jaguar, it's not an efficient EV. It even worse than the Jaguar. It actually is rated at 204 miles on the EPA rating.
Which is weird, because right, with EPA, so there's a European standard, and there they got rated at 259. And usually, generally speaking, you take that number, you subtract about 20%, and that's what your EPA is going to be. The gap between the European one at 259 and the EPA, the American one at 204, is baffling.
Yeah, that is a little surprising, and I assume you're talking about the WLTP, the newer one.
Yes.
Because the old
Yes.
NEDC rating, you had to subtract about 40%. That was completely unrealistic. But the new WLTP that's used in Europe
Right.
is pretty good.
Yeah.
And what we've found actually that we only have to subtract between 12 and 15% to arrive at the EPA range rating. So something is going on with that, because it's way more. The Audi got rated way less than what it did on the WLTP. The one thing I can say is Audi has a big battery, a 95 kilowatt hour battery, but they're also being extremely cautious with that battery. I believe only 71 or 72 kilowatt hours is usable.
Actually, it's about 86. It's actually 86. So
is it 86?
Yeah, it's a 12% buffer. So it comes to about 86 or so.
Okay,
and it's kind of weird, right? Because they're
much
active.
lower.
Yeah. Because I mean, if anything, their active cooling system, from what I see and understand, is pretty good. And the only reason to give that buffer, like I can see Nissan doing it, because battery degradation is much more likely to happen without the active cooling. But with the e-tron, it's actually pretty good. So I'm surprised that they've done that. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and thanks for correcting me. You're 100% right. I'm thinking of so many different EVs and so many different batteries. But yeah, I was actually You know what I was thinking of? You know what 71 kilowatt hours? The Byte and M Byte, which I was
That's right.
just writing
Yeah.
a article on
Yeah.
earlier this morning. So yeah, they have a big
They are the
buffer.
sponsors, so
See that right up there,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. And which I'm also a reservation holder on the Byte and M
I don't
Byte.
know why anybody wouldn't be, right? I think it's the incorrect. You correct me if I'm wrong. It's the only car where you don't have to put any money down to get yourself on the reservation list.
Yeah, I don't know if that's 100% correct. I'm not sure. Not a lot of manufacturers really start the reservation list. So, but you may be right that it's the only one
Yeah.
that you don't have to put any money down. But I was the funny thing story about that was I was at the Byte and when they were introducing the car back in 2018 at CES, and they had just a, turned on the reservation process. And I was talking to Jose Guerrero from Byton, and he said, "Do me a favor, Tom. Can you see if it works?" He said, "Can you reserve one?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I went on my phone and reserved it. And I said, "Yeah, it works." And he said, "Okay, because you might be the first reservation holder." So I may be the very first reservation holder, but I didn't do that just for fun. I actually am really interested in getting the car, and I may very well do that in when it's available in 2020. But back to the cars that we're talking about for now. So yeah, the Audi is only rated at 204 miles per charge, but I don't think, like with most Jaguar owners, I really don't think they care about the efficiency. It's
They don't.
they just want a car that goes far to serve their needs, and electricity is costs so much less than gasoline. You're talking about at the end of the year, you might spend $20 more, $25 more if your car can go, 2.5 miles a kilowatt hour or 3 miles a kilowatt hour. It's such a small difference that it really doesn't make that much difference. The bigger thing might be when you're traveling on a long trip and you're doing DC fast charge. The cars that are more efficient, you're going to get more range per minute that you're sitting there and charging. So that might be the one thing that it could be a little annoying. But I don't think many of the owners that are buying the e-tron are even thinking that that's a possibility that, oh, I'm going to have to wait 10 more minutes when I'm charging if I'm driving from San Francisco to LA. I think that's something they'll experience once they own it, but that wouldn't stop them from buying it.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we have something to look forward to almost for each month. Like I feel like things are starting to get really interesting with this number. So, all right. That's pretty much what we want to talk about next.
One more thing, I'm
Oh
going to
yeah.
interrupt you. I know we typically talk about all electric cars, but I'm going to spend just 2 minutes talking about plug-in hybrids.
All right.
So, the Honda Clarity plug-in hybrid is a really good plug-in hybrid. It's a good car. It goes about 47 miles per charge, and it had kind of taken over the lead in plug-in hybrid sales from the Toyota Prius Prime. In the first 2 months of 2019, it outsold the Toyota Prius Prime. Was close in both months, but it narrowly edged them out. Well, the king of the hybrids came back roaring in March, and Toyota sold over 1,800 plug-in Prius or Prius Primes. So they've regained the crown of the best-selling plug-in hybrid in America. That's something to keep an eye on month to month for those that really care about plug-in hybrids. I know a lot of your followers don't. I do. I think it's a good alternative to a pure electric car. If for whatever reasons a pure electric car doesn't fit your needs, or if you're just not comfortable buying a pure electric car yet, I think a good plug-in hybrid, not the little 10-mile range ones, but a car like the Honda Clarity or the Toyota Prius Prime or even the Volt. I think those were excellent cars that offered the flexibility of gasoline when you need to go really far, but also allow you to drive most of the time on electric.
Yeah, actually, I think my audience does care about it. I mean, I call them, the gateway drug to all electric cars. I own one myself as well because I mean, I don't even want to go there, but I own one of each now, all electric and plug-in hybrid. I think people do care about it. As a matter of fact, when I bought it and I started talking about it, a lot of my audience thanked me for bringing that to a lot of people's attention, saying not everybody can afford $100,000 Tesla. We kind of have to, and not everybody is comfortable playing this range anxiety game. We just want to drive, right? Like, so no, I think that is definitely on point with a lot of my audience. All right, cool. Well, unless there's anything else, I'm looking forward to next week. I'm sure there will be quite a few exciting things going on as always. So yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it once again. This has been interesting.
Very good. Thanks for having me again. If anybody's interested in looking up the monthly sales for electric vehicles, shoot over to Inside EVs, click on the monthly scorecard, and you can look at monthly sales for every electric vehicle dating back to 2010. So they're all there. We archive them, and you can keep on top of seeing what's selling and what's not.
All right, excellent. I will see you next week.
Thanks, Alex.
And of course, as always, I put a link down to all of Tom's articles, so you can find it in the description of this video. He usually writes, I mean, actually, I love reading his articles. There's a lot of insights that a lot of times you don't really see with other writers. And whenever I want to dig, research a story and stuff like that, I always see if Tom has an article about that. So don't forget to browse to the description of this video and grab that. On top of that, I'm actually just starting, I haven't even made graphics for it, but we're starting a VIP list where you guys can get exclusive content. It's going to be weekly bonus stories and offers of different electric car related products and green energy products. So go to e4electric.com/VIP. It's also in the description of this video, that link, and get on that list early because we're going to start it pretty much in about a week. So yeah, e4electric.com/VIP. And one more thing, I want to thank one of my newer patrons, Rufus Isidore. Thank you so much for joining my Patreon community, the only place where you can watch me live. And thank you to all of my Patreons for supporting me. Once again, while you're in the description of this video, grab the link to my Patreon page if you'd like to become a part of that community as well. All right, that was pretty interesting as always. Don't forget, we do this every week with Tom. And other than that, I will see you guys next time. And remember to stay charged.